So are you ready to open up this box of comics graded by CGC? Hey there, today I have a CGC unboxing, and in this video I'm going to open up 15 comic books that I sent to CGC for professional grading, that I also sent to the Palm Beach presser for cleaning and pressing. These books were sent directly to Palm Beach presser. He worked on the books, gave them an assessment, estimated grade, just set expectations, and then these were forwarded on to CGC on my behalf, and then I received them. The interesting thing about this submission was there was one book in particular that I asked Palm Beach Presser to pre-screen. He does offer this as a service. It's an additional fee or additional charge to help you determine whether or not maybe a book should be pressed and cleaned. Can give you that estimate beforehand, and then you can work with Palm Beach Presser in terms of how you want to proceed. But it's really awesome. Definitely check out his menu of services as far as what he offers beyond just traditional cleaning and pressing. And I had one book in particular that I wanted Ron to take a look at for me, and we had discussed it just because I saw some things on it, particularly with the listing of the book itself too, that gave me a little bit of pause as far as do I really want to continue with the book? I had already invested in it quite heavily and decided to go ahead and move forward. And I don't typically look at the grades beforehand because I want to have the thrill of being surprised during the recording of this. But I did get the notification from CGC that there was a specific line item in this shipment that they needed to charge my credit card an additional fee because it moved into a high value tier. That, you don't always want to get charged more money, but when you're doing this and when you're in the process of using CGC and getting your books graded, hopefully to increase its value, that type of notification is a good thing. So I did look at the line item, but I'm still super excited to finally have that book and the other 14 books back in my possession. But I did not look at the results from the other 14, so I'm going to unbox this and I will show you the grade moments before I see it, as that's always part of the fun. I will also share the grade estimates and notes from Palm Beach Presser. This is also an additional service that he provides. He can provide his grader notes on top of the grader notes that CGC may or may not provide. Again, go to palmbeachpresser.com and check out his menu of services for more details. Now, let's get this shipment unboxed. I'm super excited. I want to look at that high value book along with the 14 other books ranging from the Bronze Age, Copper Age, all the books from the eras that I love to collect, and hopefully they get the grade bump up from my original screened assessment. So I'll reveal to you my original grade, Palm Beach Presser's estimate along with his grader notes, and finally the grade that CGC ultimately encased my comic book in. Let me get this opened up and let's get started. All right, so they're back to using these. I think this is the approach they're going to have going forward with this really thicker, ultra rigid, sturdy bubble wrap. The way that I do the unboxing is I find the back cover, I turn the books upside down, and so there's no way to tell what grade it is, and then I just blindly pull out one book at random and show you what the grade is. Let's get started here. Grab the first book, and it is Amazing Spider-Man 220. This is from 1981. This one, boy, there's a story behind this one. It's not this specific issue, but when I first got into pressing my own books, Kevin757 sent me his copy of ASM 220 and wanted me to kind of run an experiment where I would press his book and run it all the way through CGC. And I was quite embarrassed because it came back with a lot of reversion. It frankly almost looked like I did nothing to it. It was so terrible, and I feel bad still to this day about the really amateur work that I did, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, I don't really know if I'm cut out to press my own books, but it was a good experience, and I definitely recommend trying to press your own books, even if you're not going to do it full time. it's just good experience to have to kind of understand the process. But this to me has always been his book in a way. There's a few comics that when you associate it with a person that maybe it's their favorite issue or there's a story behind it, sometimes you can tie it back to a good friend, and this is the case. However, this is my copy, just to be clear, and I'm happy to own it and see what it turns out as far as the final grade. Now, ASM 220 featuring Moon Knight from 1981, I had assessed my copy. Again, Kevin757, this is my copy, not yours. ASM 220 from 1981. I gave it a 9.2. I thought it had a lot of potential. Palm Beach Presser's estimate was 9.8 probable. No greater notes. I'm hoping we're off to a good start. Typically in the first couple of books, I can kind of tell how the rest of the submission is going to go. So let's see what ASM 220 got back from CGC, and it got a 9.8 white pages. All right, strong start, fantastic. And it doesn't have all of the pressable defects that I left in his copy, so check that out, Kevin757. Look at this, ASM 220 in a 9.8. Well done. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser, for once again getting my copy of ASM 220 back in a 9.8. Lovely. Always great to have Amazing Spider-Man, that sort of blue chip Marvel title in terms of value. Always nice to have those in a 9.8. And speaking of, here's Amazing Spider-Man 250 from 1984. This one is a super awesome milestone issue featuring the Hobgoblin with cover art by John Romita Jr. And the timing for this one was a little off because I sent a number of books off for the John Romita Jr. official CGC Signature Series event, and I kind of wish I had maybe waited on this one because I think this copy was in a little bit better shape than the one that I sent in ultimately, but it'll all kind of work out. I had originally assessed this as a 9.4. Palm Beach Presser noted light wear, a crease at the top staple, and light wear on the back, but a 9.8 is possible. So 9.8 probable on 220, and 250 got possible. And let's see what CGC said Amazing Spider-Man 250 would get, and it got a 9.8 white pages. Very nice. Romita Jr., Klaus Janson on cover art on this one. Amazing Spider-Man, I've talked about this before with the Hobgoblin. Just an absolute great storyline. Just a slow burn of a story over many issues, several years. And love the art up here in the price box where Hobgoblin is saying it's great steal. It just, I don't know, just takes me back to my childhood. This book from 83, 84, love it. So continuing my run of ASM, trying to get as many as I can in a CGC 9.8. And hopefully the one I sent off for the Signature Series event also gets a 9.8. We'll see. I should probably be getting that one back in about a month or two. Okay, next up is a DC book, Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 9 from 1985. This is one of those miniseries that really means a lot to me that I would like to have a full set, every issue in the series in a 9.8. I have several already, so I'm hoping that this contributes to that run. Wolfman and Perez, just amazing. It just astounds me. So many characters that George Perez had to draw and include in this entire series. The cover art alone is it's just crazy to me, the amount of detail that he puts into every single character on the page. Now, this one I had originally assessed a 9.2. Palm Beach noted light spine corner wear, but a 9.8 possible. And let's see what CGC said about Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 9, getting a 9.6. Okay, let me just take a look here. I do see just a little bit of just a touch of a color break right down here. It's tough with just that specific area of the cover that had the darker ink where it broke color, and again, just a touch here in the top corner. So I think probably just getting a little bit nitpicky there. Borderline 9.6, 9.8. The rest of the book looks fantastic, so I think it just had a little bit too much color breaking damage. I can see in both corners and 2 spots along the spine, and I think this one is probably just sneaky tricky to get in a 9.8 just because those specific areas, the ink on the cover happens to be darker in those trouble spots. but I'm just staring at the cover. Just the villains on this cover, George Perez on cover art. I'm going to add this to my run and then look for another copy to potentially get an upgrade down the road. Next is Batman 263. This is from 1975. Love to submit 1975 books in the modern tier. It's something I do pay attention to, as it's strange it's still considered a modern book. And this one I thought looked really, really nice. I gave it a 9.0 myself, and I sent it to Palm Beach Presser, and he provided his grader notes. Light color bleed from interior of cover. Minimal, if any, grade effect. And his estimated grade was a 9.6 plus, and CGC said no. They said 9.4 off-white pages. You can see right there in the spotlight that Batman is standing in. It looks like there's some pink spots on it. That's the interior bleeding through to the front cover, and maybe that's why they just kind of gave an overall off-white, not an off-white to white, just off-white page quality. But this is a 25-cent Batman cover, getting a 9.4. So while Palm Beach's estimate of 9.6 plus was one grade off, it still got the grade bump for me up from my original assessed 9.0. So very happy with that. Book from 1975, getting a 9.4, and submitted under the modern tier, costing me a little bit less to get that book graded by CGC. Next is Star Wars number 19. This is from 1979. This one too, I had originally screened a 9.0. Palm Beach Presser had quite a bit of grader notes on this one. Corner wear with rounding at the bottom right and some color loss. Tiny corner creases at the top right and back bottom left, and light color loss at spine corners. Again, if you want these detailed notes, definitely check out palmbeachpresser.com and make sure you indicate that you want this as an additional service on the submission form. I find these notes to be really valuable. It helps me learn going forward things that I need to look out for when I'm submitting books for cleaning and pressing. His estimated grade was 9.4/9.2. And let's see what CGC said for Star Wars 19 from 1979, 9.2. So it got the grade bump up from my original 9.0. I thought this was a really strong copy, but now looking at Palm Beach's grader notes, the corner wear, the rounding on the bottom right, I can definitely see that. I still think a 9.2 is probably overly harsh on this one. I mean, I'm seeing a little bit of the corner wear that Palm Beach is talking about, but I didn't think it would be that much to bring it all the way down to a 9.2. The spine looks completely intact. I don't see any creases or ticks on the spine. Just a slight color break near the staple right here. But again, just being kind of nitpicky at this point, it probably, to me, looks more like a 9.4, 9.6. But the 9.2 is fair. It did improve up from my 9.0, and it aligned with Palm Beach's estimate. So I'm going to go with that 9.2 on Star Wars 19 from 1979. So kind of going backwards here in the grades, I definitely want to get back into the 9.8 range. Let's hope that this one, G.I. Joe number 14 from 1983, gets us back up into 9.8. This is a newsstand copy. This was, if I remember right, a purchase from my comic shop, and I remember zooming in detail on the scan, and I saw one defect, and I was not sure if this would be a 9.8 candidate or not based on the scan. I ended up picking it up anyway just because it's an early G.I. Joe newsstand copy, and thought that it would still have some value even if it didn't come back in a 9.8. I had assessed the book when I got it in person and screened it myself as an 8.5. Palm Beach noted light spine, corner wear, and slight rounding of bottom outside corners, 9.4 tilde. So I imagine with that estimate, it should be a 9.4, but let's see what CGC said. G.I. Joe 14 from 1983. There's no way. 9.8. Palm Beach, what did you do to this book? That's amazing. What a super cool Herb Trimpe Destro newsstand. Where is it? Where's that barcode? Get it. There it is. See that barcode? It just adds. Let me maybe turn it this way so you can really get the barcode. That's a newsstand copy. That's just incredible. The extra lines, the way that the inker actually like makes some lines thin and some lines thicker than others, and then the way that they write the numbers on that, I mean, it almost looks like some sort of computer did this, but it's fantastic, just amazing. In all seriousness, I had kind of low expectations for this. That's why I had screened it as an 8.5. And I specifically remember highlighting that corner issue, but I think that the job that Palm Beach Presser did to smooth it out and sharpen it up as much as possible must have done it. I'll be honest, it feels to me like the Crisis book, Star Wars, well, the Crisis one had other issues to it, so it's hard to compare, but I think it was just that one trouble corner. The rest of the book looks just sharp, clean. Tremendous work, Palm Beach Presser. What a gem here. 9.8 of G.I. Joe 14 newsstand. Remember, it's not that this was a kid's book per se. I mean, you could argue, yes, Transformers, G.I. Joe. When I was a kid, these are the books that I was picking up from the newsstand. I read through them. I tried to keep them in bags and boards, but like, these are the kind of books I took everywhere, and I imagine a lot of kids did. So just tremendous to have that one come all the way back to a 9.8. What a pickup from my comic shop there. Okay, next one. We have Betty Page Comics #1 from 1996. What more can I say about Dave Stevens, and other than it's probably a borderline obsession at this point of trying to get as many Dave Stevens books in a 9.8. This is one that has eluded me. I've tried to pick up copies from Mile High Comics in the past, and they haven't graded out, and I really thought that this copy was strong. I gave it a 9.6. I screened it as a 9.6, but I just felt like there's no way I can send this book in a pre-screen. I wanted to send it to Palm Beach. He took a look at it. He worked on it. He gave no grader notes other than 9.8 probable, which is his way of saying if everything goes the right way, it should get a 9.8. And let's see what CGC said about this book from 1996, Dark Horse Comics, Betty Page Comics. And it got a 9.8. Finally, I can cross this one off of my list in terms of Dave Stevens published comics in a CGC 9.8. Amazing, fantastic. Thank you, Palm Beach. Couldn't do this without you. Really appreciate that one in a 9.8 as well. Let's start covering up the books that didn't get a 9.8 there. That looks a lot better. That way it makes me look smart. Then the next one, we have back to Amazing Spider-Man. This is Amazing Spider-Man 172 from 1977. Still considered a modern book, according to CGC, or at least being able to submit it in the modern tier. This is from 1977. Along with the G.I. Joe 14, I also screened this book at an 8.5, but I thought that there were a lot of pressable defects. This one, unfortunately, had quite a bit of grader notes returned by Palm Beach. He noted light rounding of corners, back left edge has tiny piece missing, very light stain on the back, and a 9.4 minus. So this seems to happen with a lot of these submissions where there's just one or two books that I just whiff on myself, that I maybe am just grading too fast or not exactly sure. Let's reveal the final CGC grade before I get too critical of myself. Amazing Spider-Man 172 from 1977, and it got a 9.2. So this is actually all kinds of wrong, but I guess technically it did get a grade bump up from my 8.5. First appearance of Rocket Racer, so I guess technically a key. A lot of first appearances throughout Amazing Spider-Man. And let me just see, he said the back left edge is missing a piece. Oh, I see what he's talking about. Yeah, right here. And it's hard to see because it kind of overlaps into the back cover, kind of almost like wrapping just slightly. So it's just, I would say it's more like it's slightly torn than missing a piece, but I get what he was saying. So, yeah, that's just unfortunate. The rest of the book looks pretty good. It was miswrapped. The bottom left corner, I think, is blunted as well. So this might be one of these that I just go ahead and forward on to my comic shop. Just kind of moving on, and it sort of just out of sight, out of mind, erases the mistake. So a lot of these, just learn from it and keep moving forward. And let me put this behind the 9.8. Just like that. There we go. So now it's hidden. So that'll just be between you and me that one got a 9.2, but I think that was my fault. It was just a book that didn't have as much room to grow as I had thought. Next up is Hawkeye, the limited series, #1, This is from 1983. This one is interesting because not only, I mean, you can see the beautiful barcode artwork, but this is a Canadian price variant. This is actually my very first Canadian price variant, and you always remember your first Canadian. And this also was a My Comic Shop pickup. So now we're starting to see some other sources where I had picked up books moving away from Infinity Comics and starting to move into more of the Mile High Comics, My Comic Shop books. And this was a want list hit where I will often go in and add Canadian price variants, Mark Jeweler inserts, things like that, where on My Comic Shop they're not as wanted as some of the other books. The total number of collectors that want these types of books is relatively low, and that's important because when you get the notification that there's a want list hit, that a book is in stock, it's not being broadcasted to as many collectors, and so you have a better chance of picking up the book. That I graded a 9.2. I sent it to Palm Beach Presser. He noted light corner wear, rounding most corners except the back bottom spine, and he said it has a small tear, but gave it a 9.4 plus. This is one of those where, yes, a 9.8 would have substantial value, but just getting the price variant copy itself, which is much rarer than the standard US newsstand, just to have this in high grade was important to me. Let's see what CGC said. Hawkeye #1 from 1983, the Canadian price variant, and it got a 9.8. All right, so I'm just looking at his notes again. The light corner wear on most corners, and it's the slightest of rounding. He did an excellent job making the book a little crispy and getting those corners as sharp as possible. And I can see what he's talking about. It's just the slightest, but the rest of the book looks super strong. I would say the only thing, and it's nitpicky, is the wrapping along the spine. It's just slightly miswrapped, so that if you're looking at it from like a presentation perspective, it's not a well-defined cutoff in terms of the front and the back cover. So the back cover is kind of wrapping around. So there may be some, ultra picky collectors that may not like this, but I certainly love it. Not bad for my first Canadian price variant copy. Hawkeye #1. Whew, that tremendous work. Thank you so much, Palm Beach Presser, for your work on that one. Let's make some room for this 9.8 and get those moved over there. That's looking really, really nice. And again, just the level of detail in that barcode is just amazing. Next up, we have Amazing Spider-Man 212 from 1981. Can't get enough Amazing Spider-Man. I've picked this one up in the past. I love this first appearance and origin of Hydro Man. Spider-Man has a lot of those elemental type villains. This book got a little bit of hype before Spider-Man Far From Home, when those elemental villains showed up, but they ended up being, I think, holograms from Mysterio or something, so it was a little bit of a letdown that these characters didn't make an actual appearance. And yet again, I screwed up the timing here because this is another great John Romita Jr. cover that I could have included in the John Romita Jr. signing, and so I feel a little dumb doing this in out of order, but nevertheless, still thought this was a strong copy, had some value in high grade, wanted to send it in. And I had assessed it as a 9.4. Palm Beach said that there's light spine corner wear, but said a 9.8 is probable. This direct copy from 1981, ASM 212, and it got a 9.8 white pages. I just love it. Now, of course, now that I see it in a 9.8, this also would have been tremendous to have JRJR's signature on it. Would have been a great yellow label to match the cover, and I just feel stupid, but I don't feel stupid sending my books to Palm Beach Presser and having him work on it. And this was a book that I got right. It was a 9.4. I felt like it could be improved, and improved it was to a 9.8. Just a classically designed Amazing Spider-Man book from such a great era. Absolutely love it. All right, that will go nicely in my run of Amazing Spider-Man. And next we have What If #1. Spider-Man again, not ASM proper, but What If Spider-Man Joined the Fantastic Four. This is from 1977. I am not a huge fan of what if stories, multiverse. I love strong continuity, but I've certainly come to realize that a lot of the stories and ideas from the last 10, 15 years of comics have actually pulled from What If, and they've just turned them into continuity in some way. But had a chance to pick up the first issue of What If, and I thought this was a really, really nice, strong copy. I screened this book myself and graded it a 9.0. Palm Beach's notes: corner crease lines at the back top left. Spine lumpiness is common. He noted a manufacturing issue. He estimated 9.4, 9.2. Now, sometimes when there's a manufacturing issue, both Palm Beach and I were a little bit more conservative with our grades just because it's not always clear what CGC is going to do with what we think is a manufacturing defect. But let's see the grade that CGC gave this one. What If, number 1 from 1977, 9.2. All right, so I was wrong on this. So it must have been just too much lumpiness on this one, but also suffering from a little color bleed. And again, I think that when it's present on the cover and the back cover, I can see some of the ink kind of getting through there. It looks like spots on the cover, but it's just color bleed. And it got the off-white to white page designation. Still tremendous, high grade, 1977, amazing and fantastic cover art here by John Romita Sr. And I'll have to see, this one might be kind of a borderline keeper versus off to MCS for consignment. But that's too bad. So it did, again, it got a grade bump from my original assessment. And Palm Beach was accurate, right in that 9.2, 9.4 range, which is what it ended up getting. Okay, next up, Star Wars 39. This is from 1980. This one is interesting to me because I had unboxed it. Palm Beach Presser watched my unboxing and specifically called this book out as something that he was interested in working on. I honestly was not going to send it to him, but then he made the comment. I'm like, well, let's give it a shot here. To me, it fell in that area where my decision engine was telling me just hold it raw. It's for what you paid for the book, an additional investment. It just wasn't going to have the value that it really needed if you were going to continue on to invest in a book like this. And even though I had screened it myself as a 9.2, Palm Beach's notes, the only thing he noted was a small faint crease at the back top left corner. I mean, and it's super faint. I'm having trouble even locating it. And he assessed it with an estimate of a 9.8 minus. All right, so let's check this out. 9.2 from me, 9.8 minus from Palm Beach, and CGC said Star Wars 39 from 1980, you're going to get a 9.6. And it's right in between of our assessed grades, although he said 9.8 minus, so that could be just a 9.6 plus. I mean, it's, again, we're talking about just nuanced, tiny, specific defects here. The book looks great. I mean, it's just 9.6 white pages. Star Wars 1980 Darth Vader cover. Love it. Really, really nice grade for this book. Thank you, Palm Beach, for helping me get the grade bump on that one. 3 more to go. Here's Fantastic Four 247 from 1982. This is the first appearance of Christophe Bernard. This is right smack in the middle of the John Byrne run where he's doing interiors, inks, cover art. And this was a book that I had assessed as a 9.0. Palm Beach noted some light foxing at the top edge of both covers, light spine corner wear, and he gave the book a 9.6/9.4. Let's see, Fantastic Four 247 getting a 9.4. Man, this has been kind of an interesting submission. There have been some really interesting surprises and then some duds. Just, again, the only one to blame is me on this. 9.4 off-white to white pages, and probably because of the foxing that Palm Beach has noted. I could see it right there. Getting the off-white to white, especially. And for me personally, the grade is important, but the page quality also important. I don't like to keep books unless they're white pages. So this too will probably end up in the next shipment off to MCS for consignment. But yeah, there was some light speculation on this book. I think all Doctor Doom books are interesting, or they're at least being looked at by collectors a little more closely now. So this might have some additional bump in value. So yeah, getting the grade bump, just not all the way up to a 9.8, but a 9.4 on 247. And like I said earlier, you just keep going. 2 more. Eternals number 2. This is from 1976. I really thought this was an excellent copy. I screened it as a 9.4. The main note that Palm Beach added on this one was that there was a lack of cover gloss. It seems to me just sort of all of the Eternals books sort of look like this in a way, or at least the ones that I have, but I can definitely tell what he's talking about, just a little bit of just some fading or something with these. And he put a 9.6 question mark. I'm still not sure which grade estimates are my favorite, question mark or tilde. I just laugh because I don't know either. But let's see what grade it got. Eternals number 2, and it got a 9.8. I think this counts as a 9.6 question mark, right? You could actually argue that all CGC 9.8s are actually 9.6 question marks. So, Palm Beach Presser, thank you so much. I'm just having some fun. And yeah, just a tremendous copy. It's weird. It did get off-white to white again because, especially in the trade, that's where I can tell some of that color bleed again, where it almost comes across as some sort of like ink staining or spotting, but it's just the bleed through from the ink. And I think that's where CGC, in terms of page quality, is like, you're not going to get white pages on that. But I think structurally, I was just super surprised to see that the spine is just completely spine tick free. Just a really, really nice, strong copy here. Eternals number 2 from 1976, getting a 9.8. Now, I have saved what I think is the best for last, and I'm hoping that CGC didn't really do me wrong by charging me an extra amount of money. This is typically only when it moves into a different tier, a different value tier specifically. So I'm just going to go ahead and reveal the grade quickly because I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but still just can't believe I finally have this book in this grade. And it's Planet Comics number 1 from 1988. And here we go. It got the 9.8. Absolutely just stunned. Let me tell you why I sent this to Palm Beach, but also why I asked him to pre-screen it. So when this book was listed, it was listed somewhere around, I think it was a 7.5 by My Comic Shop. And what they noted on it was like a printer misalignment, specifically around the trade, where you can see, it almost looks like somebody took a highlighter, and you can see it on the right side of the lettering in Planet, and then it almost like streaks down to the middle. And I wasn't exactly sure if this sort of defect was truly manufacturing and how that would affect the grade. And what I'm learning is typically it won't affect the grade. It's still specifically around wear and tear in general. But I looked at it when I received it and I was like, I feel like My Comic Shop just harshly critiqued the book. And sometimes you'll find graders, My Comic Shop or really anybody, when they're not exactly sure, they don't want to deal with the hassle of anybody questioning a high grade. And so they'll just lower the grade. Then they might actually price the book somewhere at a higher grade, but that's kind of how I felt with this. Is it was listed in a much lower grade around that 7.5 grade, but it was still quite expensive to acquire. And that's where they kind of hedged their bets. It's like, if we're going to let this book go, we're going to make you pay for it just in case we're wrong, but we're also just going to be a little more conservative with the raw book grade here, and also to get the white pages on this, even with that misalignment of the ink. Just amazing. I keep staring at it. I can't believe it's here back in my possession. And that's it. That's the 15 books. So what did you think about this submission? I have so many hits in here that I'm really super proud to own, and frankly astonished that I have a book like this in my collection now. Thank you, Palm Beach Presser. Check him out at palmbeachpresser.com. Can't recommend him enough. Really appreciate your work, Ron. Thank you so much to add some really tremendous gems into my collection, and some interesting ones now. Newsstand copies, Canadian price variants. And what I'll do with the other ones is take a look. Typically what I'll do is I'll go through my collection, see if I have duplicates, maybe if I have one in a lesser grade, even raw. I'll try to just keep slowly upgrading these copies. And what I'm doing now, moving away from eBay and using My Comic Shop for consignment, really good process there. I've got a lot of great packing materials that I can reuse to send these books out if need be. So all around, generally pleased with these, really happy. Love this process, and I'm going to keep at it. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.